All right, so I wanted to do a breakdown of this image, which I've already talked about how I shot it, but I wanted to do a further breakdown of it because there was so much that went into it. When we talk about framing, when we talk about lighting, when we talk about editing, I just really wanted to dive deeper into it. I did one of the how I shot this reels a few weeks ago, so I figured I would develop that reel into something a little bit longer. Anyways, this image was, crazy story. We were delayed about 4 or 5 hours because of a traffic accident out here on Maui. There was one road in and out to this specific area of the island, and those 4 hours went by and the ceremony got pushed back all the way until post sunset. So now we're talking, we are outdoors. There's no source of lighting at all nearby. There was no tent, there was no string lights, nothing, because the plan was for ceremony to be about 3 hours before sunset. So we run into the situation where you have no lights at all, other than, my off-camera lighting, which I brought. And you're expected to produce a gorgeous image in this nightmare of a situation. It doesn't matter how high of an ISO you would have shot it. There's no way you could have gotten a good photo. At one point, everybody in the crowd actually had their cell phones out and used them as flashlight, which helped me focus without having to have my own light shining to focus assist. But even that, it's not quality light. You're talking about cell phone flashlights. So for this specific photo, I had a blast because I love off-camera lighting for this type of situation. I believe that it's a skill that every photographer should have. It can be super intimidating, but once it clicks, and you can get so much out of it, especially in situations like this where it doesn't matter what's thrown at you, you can provide a good image. This photo specifically is exciting to me because it was just that. It was a challenge of your own skill. Literally, the other factor was we had no time to set up lights because we're trying to capture all the pre-ceremony moments in, no joke, 40 minutes. We had to do the getting ready, the first look, the bridesmaids, groomsmen, couples photos. We had to do wedding party photos. We had to do family photos. We had to do everything that you do previous before the ceremony, and on top of that, what you do after, the family formals and the couples photos at sunset time. So we did all of that within that 45-minute span. So by the time the ceremony came about, the lights had to go up like that. I'm literally still moving lights as the wedding party's walking down the aisle. I'm not personally moving them. I have my assistant moving around, but I'm still making decisions and making adjustments. So this is a wild time. All that being said, this photo specifically was taken once they had walked down the aisle. They're reading each other's vows. I felt like at this point the lights were just spot on. I really liked the way it looked. It took 4 off-camera lights to get them lit the way that I wanted. And I explained in that reel previously, I had 4 lights. I had one behind me. I like to use Godox lights. So this one was a Godox AD200 behind me up high with a MagMod sphere modifier on it. No gels at this time. So I had it up high. It was at about 8.5 feet. I had that straight down the pipe. So that's right in the middle of the aisle, probably about 8 feet, 10 feet back from the end of the aisle. So it was blasting over my head, and that was just kind of like my key light to the entire crowd and the couple and everybody from the front. I did have my settings jacked up, as you see here. I was at 2/50th of a second. I was at 1.2 and 1600 ISO, so I could still capture some of that sky color, because that's what I really wanted. I didn't want a black backdrop. I wanted to have that afterglow, post-sunset, gorgeous sky that Maui provides. And that's what you're seeing all right here. That's what I really wanted to make sure we had. So I didn't have to have my flash at super high power. I could keep it lower output, and that provided just the amount of light that I needed to balance it all out. And also it's a little more flattering. The lower output your flash is at, normally the softer the light, the more flattering it'll be. So I had that main AD200 up above, and then I had a V1, so that's a round-headed Godox speed light on camera mounted, and I use that as my trigger. It also controls the output power of every light. And what I had it on my camera for was because I wanted, wherever I went, I wanted to have a key light on me, meaning I didn't want to run into a situation where somebody stepped into the light that was on a stand and then that stand light would cast a shadow, or if I went too close to the front of the aisle, then my shadow would be casted upon them from that light that was behind me. So the on-camera light was a little bit stronger than my backlight to wash off those shadows. And then I had two more lights. I had two more lights on stands, two more speed lights, and those were right back here, one behind this tree over here and another one back behind these palms over here. It was kind of like to the left of the palms. And you can see these hair lights. So these are my hair lights, my little rim lights, backlights, whatever you want to call them. That's that rim that you're seeing along the edge of the people right here on the back. And same for this side, you see that same effect right there, kind of lighting behind them, kind of like this rim light that I have here from the sun that's coming in my window. And that adds separation from the backdrop. So it adds separation from them and the ocean. It adds separation from everything that falls behind them. It makes them pop in the frame a little better. So I really wanted to have those two lights in the back for that reason. And then I have my key and my fill light right on my side of the crowd. And I think the combination of those four really provided the lighting that I was looking for. Ideally, I would have maybe had a more powerful hair light in the back, but at that point, the four lights that I had on me is all I had. At that point too, I didn't have my 24mm lens on me. I only had my 50 and the 135. I didn't feel like wasting time and running out to grab my 24. I wanted to shoot with what I had on me, and I did want a wider frame, but in the situation I was in, I didn't want to step too far back. With my 50, the lighting wasn't going to be exactly how I wanted it, so I resorted to making a composite image with my 50mm lens. The beauty of that is that it gives the image a lot of depth. A composite image is when you take 3 photos or more. You can take as many as you want. Normally 50 is like the threshold of when things start to look weird and distort. You normally would do this with an 85 or a 135 or 100. The longer the lens, the better it'll look, the more images you can attach together without that distortion. But with the 50, I feel like the magic number is 3 images. For me at least, I find that works the best. So that's what I did. I took 3 different frames, and I'll show you here in a moment, and I stitched them together to make this wider looking photo that would be the framing more of a 24 or a 35. So this is the final photo, and these are the 3 photos I'm going to show you here that made up this final photo. So I took the first frame was this one, right? That center frame. And then what you want to do for these composite images is you want to overlap half of the image so that your software has a reference point as to how to blend them together. So this is the center image, the main photo that I wanted, and this is the second image. As you see, is half overlap, right? And this is the third image, half overlap to the other side. And then you stitch all 3 together and you get the final photo right there. Couple key points for when you're doing these composite images is focus one time and don't refocus again. So focus when you're doing your center image, pick your point, and then when you're shooting the other 2, don't change your focus. Let the focus lie on that first photo. So use one-shot focus, or just, I like to use split focus where my back button, my AF on button is what triggers the autofocus mechanism. So I hold it down, I pull focus, I let go, and I won't focus again. I just release the shutter with the front button. And then you do that. And simple as selecting the 3 photos that you took, you right click, and then on Lightroom you right click and you photo merge. I believe here you right click and you go photo merge, panorama, boom, and it'll automatically put them together for you. Now to give you a quick little before and after, this was straight off camera right here as you're looking at it. and this is a final product. I wanted to bring down those highlights a little bit, mute them down a little bit. That's kind of how I like to you know, deliver my final product, especially on these nighttime photos. And then I did some refocusing to bring attention to the couple and kind of get rid of some distractions. So if we look at here, I'll show you with the masking what I've done. You see that's with no mask, no brushes, no gradients, nothing. And then this is with it right here. So you see a little bit of a change there, right? I'm gonna click on and off a couple of times so you can see. A little bit of a change there in refocusing from the bright spots down to my couple. So there was a lot of bright spots going on here. There was higher exposure here in the crowd and the people watching the ceremony take place. And I just kind of brought the exposure down in those areas to bring back the focus to my gorgeous couple there and the people in the front. Same with the palm trees on the left, you see there. The palm trees had a little bit of brightness, so I brought that down. And it really just to redirect that focus to the center of the image rather than have these bright spots that catch your eye. So I would say, yeah, this is kind of more of the breakdown I wanted to do, and 90 seconds didn't do it justice, so I hope that this does it justice. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments. Make sure to let me know. I'd love to do a little bit more of these videos, and if you find it helpful, let me know. I'll keep it coming. And if you don't, that's fine. I'll keep them coming anyways.